All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. And what a sports week we've had. The NBA regular season is officially over. We have a new league leader in history in the NHL for wins. We have a team still undefeated in baseball. We have a crown for the NCAA men's ice hockey champion. And the draft for the NFL is as close can get, being 2 weeks away. And I'm hyped. I'm juiced. Everything that could possibly be happening in sports is happening, and I'm here for it all. You're here for it all. And we're just going to sit back and enjoy the ride. We're going to start today's show off with some baseball, though. The Mets right now, they sit second in the NL East at 5-5, 500 on the year so far. They got swept last week we were on. The Mets were playing Milwaukee at the time and lost. Well, they happened to lose the next 2 games to Milwaukee to get swept, but they do bounce back and take 2 of 3 from the Marlins again, as they played them the first series and the third series of the year to sit at 5-5. What's crazy is now with everybody playing everybody, doesn't matter what league you're in, the Mets will not see the Marlins for months. I think it's August or September that they don't see the Marlins to, but months. They will be a completely different team by the time these two face off again. So it's the amount of time before they see each other again is quite wild. But a couple things I wanted to touch on from the meetings. First of all, the Milwaukee, that was terrible series. Just get out of Milwaukee. That's what I was saying after the end of the third game. Just flush the series down the drain. It's an early still in the year. Flush it and let's keep going. Bad series. Second off, now we go on to the Marlins series. Kodai Senga had his second start of the year, and he looked awesome. He looked fantastic. Gave up only another 1 earned run on the year. He went 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run on the home run that he gave up, 6 strikeouts. And that forkball was nasty. The fastball had some zip on it. He had a very good slider going. I'm telling you, Kodai Senga is going to be one of the biggest X factors of this New York Mets team. Now, I am concerned about one pitcher in particular, and that's Carlos Carrasco. Carrasco had his second start of the year, and it was almost as bad as his first. So far in the year, with both games combined, he has pitched 8.2 innings, given up 10 hits, 11 earned runs, 3 home runs, 7 walks, 5 Ks, for a negative .5 WAR, a 1.96 whip, and a 11.42 ERA. Now, one good thing about this previous start, his velocity did not dip on his fastball, which was definitely very concerning in the first game. But he had no command over anything the previous start that he had. And for it to happen back-to-back is quite concerning, especially for somebody of his age. Is he finally hit a cliff or something like that? So Carrasco is very much starting to worry me. I'm not concerned about Scherzer. I know he's gotten dinged up in his 2 starts. He sits at a 6.35 ERA. He will pitch tonight against the Padres. But Mad Max is going to bounce back. This dude's way too talented not to bounce back. He's one of the best pitchers in the league still. From the hitting side, from the Mets, Pete's gotten scorching hot. He is tied for the league lead with 5 home runs. Escobar still looks lost. Once Beatty gets a couple more bats because of his hand, I would bring him up immediately. I'm telling you, Beatty would make a huge impact on this team. They brought up Alvarez because Narvaez is going to be out for a while. And what do you know? Alvarez, first at-bat, RBI single. He's going to be a huge impact if he gets more at-bats for this team coming up. Lindor is walking a ton. His on-base percentage is a ridiculous .349. Nimmo had 4 walks in a day. First time that's happened for him. Doesn't happen much in MLB history in general. His on-base percentage is a .421. He's getting on base at almost half of his at-bats, which is crazy. This team is going to hit. You're gonna get some power from Alonso, from Marte, from Lindor. You're not gonna get the power from other guys in the lineup as much like Canna, although they can. But this team needs to be able to put string together hits. That's how they're gonna win and get power from the power guys. I'm not concerned about the hitting. It's coming along, and I think this is a decent test earlier in the year against the Padres. This is a playoff team. I think they're one of the best teams in baseball. That top 4 is deadly. We never hit against Darvish. The Mets do. You don't have to face Musgrove, but you do got to face Blake Snell. So this is a good test for the Mets early in the season to see how they kind of line up. Now, a team that's passed every check so far is the Tampa Bay Rays. They currently sit at 9-0 to start the year, and they are on fire. Wander Franco coming out the gate hot, him and Randy Arozarena. You knew Randy was going to come out hot. I talked about it after that World Baseball Classic that he had. You knew he was going to come out scorching hot. Wander Franco, staying healthy, yeah, he is one of the best shortstops in the league. He's sitting .351, 400 on base, .757 slugging for an 1157 OPS right now. He has been crushing the baseball. Brandon Lau's been crushing the baseball. Luke Raley, has been crushing the baseball. Everybody on this lineup has been crushing the baseball. And their pitching has been great as well. Jeffrey Springs in his 13 innings, he hasn't given up a run. Drew Rasmussen, 13 innings, hasn't given up a run. Shane McClanahan, 12 innings, given up 2 runs. Zach Eflin, 11 innings, giving up 4 runs. And even their relief pitching has been great. The only one who has above a 3.6 ERA is Josh Fleming. Besides that, nobody has above a 3.6 ERA. Most of them have zeros. So I talked about this earlier. Even though I didn't have Tampa Bay making the playoffs, I said that probably is going to be my downfall because this team finds a way. They find a way, and they have very good talent. It's kind of they didn't stay healthy last year. Well, it's only 9 games into the season, but they're showing you the kind of talent they have. Now, I will put a little asterisk next to this 9-0 because, and some of these stats because it should point out who have they played. Well, they've played the A's, the Washington Nationals, and the Detroit Tigers. 3 of the worst teams in the league. So, while they are 9-0, and that's still impressive against even those 3 teams to sweep all those series, take a look at who they've played. They haven't really played anybody of note so far. Now, I'm not saying this is not a huge accomplishment, because it definitely is, and you definitely have to take this team seriously, but they do play Boston, which is a little bit of a step. It's a bit of a step up. Boston can't pitch to save their life, but they can hit. So I'm curious how their pitching does, Tampa. And then they play Toronto. So I'm curious in those 2 series how they end up doing versus another step up, a division rival, good teams. I'm curious. But the Rays have gotten off to a start that you could have not even dreamed of having. They're plus 57 already in run differential, which is absolutely bonkers. Bonkers! Then, a team I told you to look out for. The sneaky team. A little bit of a sneaky team. I said they're not going to make the playoffs. But this is a team that could do some damage. They're going to take away some wins from some teams, be pesky, and they're coming up. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're sitting at the top of the West right now. It's 6-4. And who have they played? Have they played teams like the Rays, like the A's, Washington, and Detroit? No, they've played the Dodgers and the Padres. That's it. They played the Dodgers twice and the Padres, and they sit at 6-4. Wow, and it's not because of their pitching. Their pitching hasn't been great. Zach Gallen sits at 7.59 ERA. Ryan Nelson, 4.91. Zach Davies, 5.79. Merrill Kelly has not been terrible with 3.48. But the reason why they are where they are is because their hitting has been phenomenal. Christian Walker, even though he's been one of the bigger names, has not been great. But Ketel Marte's been good. Guillermo Parano's been awesome. Evan Longoria's, I hit the fountain of youth. What is he, back in the Giants uniform again 2 years ago? So, they found some life hitting the ball. Josh Rojas with a 965 OPS to start the year, their third baseman. So they found some life in some guys. Now, do I think this is going to keep up? No. But do I think Corbin Carroll's numbers are going to continue to get better? He sits at a 693 OPS. He's going to continue to get better the more at-bats he gets. He's an absolute animal in center field, the young kid. Yeah, Lourdes Gurriel's going to get more comfortable. Gabriel Moreno's going to get more comfortable. Plus, the pitching. Zach Gallen is too good of a pitcher. He's going to get better. Ryan Nelson's numbers are going to get better. Zach Davies' numbers are going to get better. I can't tell you if Madison Bumgarner's numbers are going to get better, but most of this starting pitching is going to get better, and it's going to even out a bit more. So while they've been relying on their hitting, this is a team that is going to continue to be pesky to these top teams. And I think one of the big separators for playoffs is going to be or that division at least, could be how the Dodgers and the Padres fare up against the Diamondbacks. That could be a huge difference maker. You've seen it in the East with how the Phillies in the past have done against the Marlins. They've been terrible against the Marlins, and that really has cost them. So that could be one of the situations here in the NL West, is how you do against a decent team like the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, sneaky team to watch out for. I think they got some pop. I think their pitching is going to come to its own. And against some of the two best teams in the league, they're 6-4. They're 6-4. So that's something to watch out. When we come back, though, NBA playoffs. So I'm going to give my predictions because we got a lot to talk about with the playoffs starting tomorrow with the play-in games right here on the Scharf Show, 99.1 FM, WIUX. Alright, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. And as I said before the break, excuse me. Man, new weather. It's so nice out, but like the back and forth that we've had in Bloomington, it does damage to it. I tell you, when the weather just can't stay consistent, it does. I don't know if that's anybody else, but sometimes you take a bit of a hit, but I'll take the nice weather that we're having. 70 degrees, beautiful. But back on track. We got the NBA playoffs coming up, starting tomorrow. And we're going to go over what I think is going to happen throughout it all. In the Eastern Conference, we got the 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks, 2 seed Boston Celtics, 3 seed Sixers playing the 6 seed Brooklyn Nets, 4 seed Cleveland Cavaliers playing the 5-seeded Knicks. Then we got, in the play-in, the 9-seeded Toronto Raptors playing the 10-seed Chicago Bulls, and the 7-seed Miami Heat playing the 8-seed Atlanta Hawks. Then in the West, we got the 1-seeded Denver Nuggets, the 2-seeded Miami Grizzlies, the 3-seed Kings playing the 6-seed Warriors, the 4-seeded Suns against the 5-seeded Clippers, and in the play-in, we got the 9-seeded Pelicans versus the 10-seeded Thunder, and the 7-seeded Lakers versus the 8th-seeded Timberwolves. We're going to start out in the East in the play-in tournament. Of course, we'll start with the 7-8 matchup. Winner plays Boston. It is the Miami Heat against the Atlanta Hawks. And Miami Heat, I think, this is a team built to cause damage in the playoffs. I think they're a similar team to the New York Islanders. Is once they get in, they can do a lot of damage. So they're just worried about getting in. I think they beat the Hawks here. I think playoff Jimmy, you start to see him come around. They take the 7th seed and look to play Boston. Then, you got the Toronto Raptors against the Chicago Bulls. I'm going to take the Chicago Bulls in a bit of an upset here. I think Levine comes to play. I think DeRozan comes to play. I think they eke out a win in Toronto in the North to move on to play Atlanta for the right to play Milwaukee in the first round. So you got Atlanta and Chicago, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to take the Atlanta Hawks to beat Chicago to earn that 8th seed. I think Trae Young's the best player in this matchup, and I think he lights it up. I think DeJounte Murray has a big day. Hopefully giving a little satisfying grace towards the Hawks fans for that trade that they made with the Spurs. But I think they at least show up for at least that game after losing to Miami to secure the 8th seed. Then in the West, the play-in tournament, we're going to take, in the 7-8 matchup, we're going to take the Lakers to advance over the Timberwolves, who are, what are you doing, man? The Timberwolves' final game, Rudy Gobert punching his own teammate, gets kicked out of the game. Now he's not going to play the play-in game, at least the first one. I don't know what's going on in the Timberwolves locker room, but nothing good. Playoff Bron, give me playoff LeBron to win this game to become the 7 seed. Then the 9-10 matchup, give me the Pelicans to take out the Thunder. I think the Thunder barely squeaked in. I think they should have been the Mavs if they really wanted to come and play. I think they would have gotten that win, but they didn't want it, so the Thunder got it. I think the Pelicans win that game. Then you got the Timberwolves versus the Pelicans. If Gobert plays, I like the Timberwolves a lot more, but even with how locker room right now is, how can you take the Timberwolves? Give me the Pelicans to win that game for the right then to go face the Denver Nuggets, the 1 seed. So we got Miami and the Lakers securing the 7 seeds, and Atlanta and the Pelicans securing the 8th seeds. And we move on to the first round. We got the Bucks then versus the Hawks. Give me the Bucks in a 4-game sweep. Bring out the brooms. It's going to be easy money for the Bucks. Giannis is going to have himself a field day. And, yeah, I just don't think there's much to talk about this matchup. I don't see, any of these teams go and face the Bucks, whether it be Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, Toronto. It's going to be quick work for me, in my opinion. Then, we got an interesting matchup between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. New York Knicks wanted Donovan Mitchell so bad, New York Knicks fans. Well, he ends up going to Cleveland, and that's who you face in the first round, Knicks fans. And sorry to tell you, but Donovan Mitchell, he's going to kick you out of the playoffs, and I think around 6 games. It's going to be a nice series. I think the Knicks get a game or 2, at least a game, I think. I don't think this is definitely not going to be a sweep. I think Cleveland could win in 5. I don't think I see it going 7. I think Donovan Mitchell closes it out at the Garden in Game 6 to give them the win. I think Knicks will fight, but ultimately they just don't have that killer that Cleveland does in a Garland or in a Donovan Mitchell. That'll give them the edge. Then we got the Philadelphia 76ers, the 3 seed against my team, the 6 seeded Brooklyn Nets. And while I would love to pick the Nets to win this series, I don't see it happening. I see it can go, I'm going to predict it to go 6 games. I think it's going to be 5 or 6. I don't think it lasts 7, similar to Cleveland. I don't think the Nets can push them that far. And I don't think it's a sweep. I think that the Nets get 1. Probably 5 or 6 games. I'll lean 6. But I think they just don't. It's going to be tough to guard Embiid. I don't think we have the Nets have that killer in them yet. I think Bridges is becoming that kind of guy. I think he's going to need some more talent around him. It's a fun team. It's a fun team, the Brooklyn Nets, right now. But I just don't think they have the talent to compete and keep up with the Sixers. Sixers winning 6 games. Then you got a very interesting matchup to me. The Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat in the 2-7 matchup. This is a very upset potential series. I'm not going to lie. I think the Heat, this is a favorable matchup for the Heat if they had to pick out of like the Bucks or the Celtics. This is a much favorable matchup. I think this is one they could definitely win. I am, though, going to give it to the Celtics, but I'm going to say it goes 7 games. Boston gets put to the test early, and they pass the test early against Miami in the first round to get it. They walk it off in TD Garden to advance to the next round in 7 games. Then you got round 2 of the semifinals, and you got the Bucks versus the Cavaliers, and the Sixers versus the Sixers versus the Boston Celtics. Yes, we'll start with the Boston and Philly. Again, great matchup wise. Tatum, Embiid, Harden, Jaylen Brown. These teams have played a lot in the playoffs recently. I like Boston here again in 7 again. I think Boston passes another test. I think having home court advantage is big. That Game 7 is going to be at TD Garden. I like Boston here. I just think, and ultimately, Harden not being what he was with the Rockets, that doesn't mean he's bad. He's been passing the rock very well this year. He's over 10 assists per game, which is very impressive. But I ultimately, when you need a bucket, Harden's not the player. It's not to say he's not good, but he's not the player he was. He's not that MVP caliber player anymore. So I ultimately like Boston to win this series in 7 games. Milwaukee against Cleveland. I like Milwaukee here to win that series in about 5 to 6 games. They just have Milwaukee has Drew Holiday who can and Chris Middleton who can match up well against Garland and Mitchell, and I just think they have nobody who can match up against Giannis. Granted, there's nobody who can match up against Giannis, but at least do some damage against Giannis. Nobody that I think will at least cause that much of an impact on Giannis's game. So then you have the Bucks and the Celtics meeting in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I like the Bucks in this one because of a couple reasons. I just think they're the better team, 1. And 2, I think Boston, after going through 2 7-game series, is going to be a tad worn out, a tad tired. I think this goes 5 to 6 games, not because Boston's not talented enough to take it 7 games. They definitely can. I just think they're going to be worn out by this point. And I think Milwaukee going through a sweep, going through 5 or 6 games, only playing around 10 games compared to around 14, I think, for Boston. I think that's going to be a huge impact. So give me the Bucks to advance the NBA Finals in 6 games, we'll say, against the Celtics in a great series. Then we move on to the Western Conference. We got the 1-seeded Denver Nuggets taking on the 8-seeded New Orleans Pelicans. I'll take the Nuggets here in 5 games, a gentleman's sweep. I just think Jokic has himself a day or a series. I don't see them losing round 1 again. The NBA doesn't have too many upsets, at least in round 1 most of the time. Then we got the 2-seeded Grizzlies versus the 7-seeded Lakers. And this is an interesting series to me. This is a very interesting series to me because this could go a lot of ways. LeBron versus the young Ja Morant. Lakers are kind of an underdog. But I'm going to take Memphis in this series in 7 games. I think this goes 7 games regardless. I think this is, again, both 2-7 matchups are going to be the best matchups in the first round. For upset watch, at least. I think the 4-5s are going to be great as well. But in terms of upset watch, with different between like the first 3, the 1 through 3 seeds, I think the 2-7s are the best to watch. This is going to be a tight series. Ultimately, though, I think when it goes 7, health, the strain on the body for guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron, you could start to see that show up. So I'm going to take the Grizzlies to win in 7. Then we got the 3-seeded Sacramento Kings. What? The Sacramento Kings at the 3 seed? Yes, the Kings at the 3 seed. They're taking on the Golden State Warriors at the 6 seed. That's right, they got the Warriors sitting at the 6 seed. This is going to be, I think, an interesting series. The Kings' first playoff appearance in 17 years versus the defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors. I'm going to take the Warriors in 7 games, and I don't feel great about it. I think just when it comes to playoff basketball, I think Steph's going to show up, Clay's going to be better, Draymond's going to show up, and I think Sacramento plays well. They do some damage, but ultimately I think this is their first time being back in the NBA playoffs in a long time. Give them time to come back. Usually you don't do something on your first run. So give me the Warriors in 7 to vanquish the Sacramento Kings after their first appearance in the NBA playoffs in 17 years. Then we got the 4-seeded Phoenix Suns against the 5-seeded LA Clippers. I love this Phoenix Suns team. I think they got so much talent. I think they can do almost everything. This Clippers team is a good Clippers team, but I don't think they're going to have the pace to match up with this Phoenix Suns team. Give me the Suns in 6 games to win against the Clippers to advance to the second round of the NBA playoffs. Second round, we got Denver. We got the Phoenix Suns. I said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think when you have your big men as your best player, does not serve well, really, in the NBA playoffs in this era. And I think it's going to show up again. I think the Suns take care of the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. They vanquish them on their home court in Phoenix in 6 games to eliminate Denver. I think KD, Booker, and Chris Paul really turn on the Jets and really strive to go get themselves an NBA championship as they take down the 1-seeded Denver Nuggets. And the 6-seeded Warriors play the 2-seeded Memphis Grizzlies. This would be an awesome matchup. Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green been talking all that smack. Time to see if the Dynasty versus the New Bloods. And I think the Dynasty ultimately wins this series in 7 games. It's going to take a lot for the Warriors to get there. I don't feel comfortable picking the Warriors going to the Western Conference Final. I'm not super confident on it, but regardless, I am picking it. I think Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and the Warriors, they humble the Grizzlies a bit and say, you hold on, young blood. Not your time just yet. Learn to respect what a dynasty is. Learn to respect the Warriors. You're getting there, but you're not there just yet. Then we got the Warriors versus the Phoenix Suns. And I think it's going to take the Warriors a lot to get to the Western Conference Finals. Like I said, I'm not confident in that. I think the Suns are just more talented. I think they win in 5 games. I don't think it's that much of it. I think after the 4, the 2-2, I think back at Phoenix, I think they just finished them off. I think they get a game at home, Golden State. But ultimately, I think Phoenix runs away with that series and wins in 5 games. Then, in the NBA Finals, you got the 4-seeded from the West side, the Phoenix Suns, and the Milwaukee Bucks. A rematch of 2 years ago, was it? I think it was 2 years ago. And I got revenge for the Suns. I got the Phoenix Suns beating Milwaukee in 6 games on their home court. Kevin Durant gets another ring. Is going to be the MVP. Chris Paul gets his first ring. And the Phoenix Suns are your NBA champions. That is my prediction. I have the Suns over the Bucks in 6 games. Tweet at me at jsharf121628. If you got any NBA predictions, you can let me know. You can let me know in the YouTube comments. I'd love to hear what you think of that. But that's what I think. I think Phoenix is the deepest team. I think they have the best top end. I think they can go 1-5 with anybody. And I think their path is pretty solid as well. The Clippers, Denver, and then whoever is in the Western Conference. I think the West is not as top heavy as it usually is. I think with Golden State not being the team that they usually are, Denver being the 1 seed. The Lakers with LeBron I don't feel them as an NBA, really a title threat. I don't see the West being as strong as it usually is, and I think that works to Phoenix's advantage, really. I think it does. And ultimately, I think that leads them to an NBA championship. When we get back, though, we're going to talk about this record-breaking win that the Boston Bruins just had to put them as the most wins for a team in NHL history. Right here when we come back on the Scharf Show, 99.1 FM. WIUX. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scharf Show here on 99.1 FM WIUX. And the Boston Bruins, they are your NHL leader in wins. Not this year, not last year, ever. They have the most wins for a team in NHL history, and they still have 2 games left to play, my friends. They sit at 80 games played, 63, 12, and 5, 131 points. Mamma mia! That's a lot of points. To put that into context, the next best team is the Carolina Hurricanes. And will they sit at 109 points. So that difference of 22 points is ginormous. For example, if you were to take 22 points away from the Carolina Hurricanes, they'd be fighting for a playoff spot. They're sitting close to the New York Islanders. Actually, they're sitting below the New York Islanders. So, interesting. It's a very interesting thing on how the gap is from Boston Bruins to the rest of the NHL. And they've had a fantastic year. An absolutely fantastic year. David Pastrnak most likely would be the Hart Trophy winner if it was not for Connor McDavid this year. Connor McDavid, 150 points, 60 goals, having one of the best seasons we've seen in years in the NHL. If he wasn't having that kind of year, David Pastrnak wins your heart. He has 60 goals as well. He broke the 60-goal mark in the previous game in 80 games played. 49 assists for 109 points. He's been a monster for the Bruins this year. Got paid like he's been a monster as well. Brad Marchand's been great. Patrice Bergeron's going to win the Selke again because he's just... They should name it the Bergeron Award, rename it from the Selke to the Bergeron. And, of course, in net, Elias Olmark is going to win the Vezina. He's been phenomenal with a .938 save percentage, 1.89 goals a game. In this era of hockey in the NHL, where games are averaging 5 to 6 goals a game from both teams combined, is ludicrous. It's insane how much that is. It's actually crazy to see a number like that, and how he's just had a career year in Boston. Boston seems to get the best out of everybody. But what's crazy is Boston is not a lock to... this is why I think what makes hockey so good. If Boston matches up with, let's say, the Islanders, while I don't think the Islanders are going to win, while I think that series goes 5 or 6 games, if the Islanders were to win, I don't think people would say that's impossible. The Islanders are built for the playoffs. They do that every year. So while I don't think the Islanders would win, I wouldn't put it past them. And then even if they do manage to beat the Islanders, they got to play the winner of Tampa and Toronto, which would be a great series. And they could definitely lose that. So their path, anybody in the East path to the Stanley Cup Finals is a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath. We've talked about how crazy the East is time and time again. And it's a great accomplishment that Boston made. It is a fantastic accomplishment. But just like with Tampa Bay, even though what they did was getting swept by Columbus was crazy, their path is not easy. They are not guaranteed to win the Eastern Conference. They're not guaranteed a Stanley Cup. They are going to have to go through a gauntlet. And if they do make it, it's probably going to be the greatest season in NHL history. You could argue. It's going to be up there. But they might not get through. That's how tough it is to win the Stanley Cup playoffs. They are easily the best team in hockey right now, and they still are going to have a very, very, very tough time going to make a Stanley Cup final. And I'm going to give you a little preview. They're not going to be my Stanley Cup prediction to make it out of the East. And that's not because, I'm a huge New Jersey Devils fan, and that while that is the case, and I do like the Devils, it's because the President's Trophy Cup or winner rarely wins the Stanley Cup. We did see it last year with the Avalanche, but it doesn't happen very often. The team with the best record in the regular season doesn't usually win the Stanley Cup. It does happen, but not very often. So to say that if you say, I just don't think Boston's going to win the Cup, that's not crazy. You're probably actually more sane than crazy. If you think Boston's going to win the Cup, obviously you're not crazy. You're picking the best team. But let's be real here. Boston, again, it's going to be a gauntlet. It's going to be a bloodbath. This is not going to be a walk in the park. If Boston was in the West, I think it'd be a lot easier to get to the Cup final. I think Colorado would put up a fight. Obviously Edmonton with McDavid, but I don't. Besides those two teams, because of McDavid, because Colorado's that good, I don't see much resistance in the West if they got there. But in the East, it's going to be a ton of resistance, and it's going to be a tough road for them to get there. And it's going to be such an exciting Stanley Cup playoffs that I cannot wait for. But congratulations to the Bruins fans for an awesome year. Just absolute domination on the year. They've only lost 7. They are 33-4-3 at home. Absolutely ridiculous. They are plus 124 goal differential. Nobody else in the league is over 65. Over the next highest is 60. 61 for Edmonton. That's the second highest. So they have over double the goal differential of the next best team. That's insane. That's actually insane. Just shows you how dominant this Boston Bruins team has been. But we did have some other hockey happen over this past week. The Frozen Four happened, and we were crowned a champion in the final game. Quinnipiac, they topped Minnesota to be your national championship 10 seconds into overtime. And this was an awesome game. Awesome game for hockey. Awesome game for college. Awesome game for sports. Hopefully this brings more people to watch college hockey because it is such a great watch. Quinnipiac, I thought, was the better team for most of this game. First period, I thought it was a good 50-50 game. Minnesota's first goal, obviously, huge mistake by Quinnipiac. Kind of fanned on the breakout attempt, leads to a goal. That cannot happen in a championship game, but you have to fight through it. It happens. Then they score again to make it 2-0 in the second period. Quinnipiac responds, though, very quickly to make it 2-1, and they get the goal with under 3 minutes left in the third, and then in 10 seconds into overtime, it's Jacob Coylan to ice the game. But while I do think Quinnipiac was the better team, and they deserved to win, they doubled their shots 30-15. They controlled a lot of the pace. I think they had a lot of the better chances. I think Minnesota kind of let this one get away a bit. They were up 2-0, and while they did score right away, they could have, I think, played more aggressive. They got outshot in the third period, 14-2, because they played defensive. They said, "Hey, we're just going to try to hold the fort, hold it down, and hopefully we can squeak out here with a W." And ultimately, Quinnipiac found their goal. But I hate when teams play like that in any sport, especially hockey. I think you got to be aggressive. I'm not saying over-aggressive. I'm not telling the defenseman to pinch on every 50-50 puck by the blue line in the offensive zone. But you got to be aggressive. You got to go try to get the second goal and the third goal. Go try to put them out of their misery. Get the nail in the coffin. Instead of sitting back and just hoping and playing defense and trying to block shots. You can do that, but you got to be more aggressive. You can't play passive. I ultimately think that's what hurt Minnesota the most this game. The overtime goal was a sweet play, and it could have went a 50-50 game. Overtime goal, again, sweet play. I'm not really taking that into account. I'm looking. The reason where Minnesota lost this game was in the third period, being too passive, being way too passive. You got to go after it. You got to look at that killer mentality to go get a second goal to put you up by 2, to go get another goal to put you up by 3. Not to just try to hang on to that one goal lead. I don't agree with that style of play. Ultimately, I think that's what that is in the end why Minnesota lost this game. Was a great game though. Back and forth action, great chances for both teams. So all the goals were great goals except for the first one. The Minnesota one, the second goal was a great goal. The Quinnipiac first goal, tip in front. The Quinnipiac goal to tie it. Using the guy in front really bothered goal. You see, he thought it was going to be a pass in front, but instead hits off his somebody and goes 5-hole on the goalie. And then beautiful play on the overtime winner to give Quinnipiac the dub. And how about that celly? Oh, one of the best celebrations I've ever seen in any sport. Throws up the glove, takes his stick, boom, 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 like he's shooting the glove out of the air. Awesome celly. I think I would have row the stick like the cowboy. That might have been minor. That was a good celebration though. Maybe a row the boat kind of one. All-time celly, I think. One of the greatest cellies in sports that we just witnessed. All-time game. Was awesome to watch. And yeah, Quinnipiac gets its first ever NCAA title. I think Quinnipiac's been pushing the door. I think they're trying to. I think they're similar to kind of. I lost who I had. I had train of thought, but they were pushing the door to really. They've been in the national conversation for years, but they've been really pushing to get that first national title. Now that I got that, I think that's going to just open the floodgates for them to really start winning some more and start to become one of these bigger names in college hockey. Not just a new name, but a respected name that has history to back it up. I think that's going to start to come as they got this first championship. But like I said before, we got more MLB this week. 2 weeks till the NFL draft. So next week, what we'll be doing on the show, we'll do our NHL Stanley Cup predictions. 2 weeks, we will do our NFL draft predictions. I don't know how far we'll go into the draft. Maybe top 10, maybe top 15. But that'll be on the 24th to look forward to. College sports kind of wrapping up. We still got college baseball. MLB, like I said, in the middle of it. It's just getting underway. So much sports action to still look forward to as a sports fan. And you're going to hear it all right here on the Scharf Show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, I am Josh Scharf here on the Scharf Show on 99.1 FM WIUX. I will see you on the other side.